reconciliation, forgiveness, regret. From what I see so far, people don't grow old and get at the end of their life and regret the things they did wrong. They don't regret being bad or failing. They regret the things they didn't do. They regret the things they didn't even try. And apparently regret is a very, very, very heavy thing to carry. Let's look at some self-reconciliation. Self-reconciliation, as far as I can see right now, is the way to avoid getting old and getting stuck with regret and getting stuck where it's basically too late or seemingly too late. I don't never believe it's too late 100% because there's always something that can be done, even if it's just 1% to the good of making something right. Reconciliation. Self-reconciliation is what I'm talking about. It is an acquired skill. It is a deliberate way of being. It is intentional. It is specific. Let's look at some possible things of what it might be and what it might do. Self-reconciliation, what is it? It's a process for aligning the human psyche into a support rather than a self-sabotage. What's it do? It unveils the notion that some desired results were unknown and therefore personal wants and needs were not met. Here, let's read on further into some other stuff. Self-reconciliation is an acknowledgement, approach, and processing of things done wrong to oneself. It is making it up to yourself where you let yourself down, where you did not make it right with yourself. Even if it be something that happened in your early childhood, or it's been many years ago, whether it be an isolated event, or if it was an ongoing addiction or bad habit over a length of time. You see, the tricky things about this is everybody basically knows you mess up, you got to forgive yourself and move on, right? Forget it. It's in the past. Move on. Keep on trucking. Keep on partying, buddy. Keep on moving right along. It's in the past. It don't matter now. No. If it wasn't reconciled, if it was not reconciled, it's not complete. Then it was just a that it was just an illusion of letting it go. It was an illusion of being okay with it. It was an illusion. It was an illusion of thinking you did it right by saying, it's whatever. It's in the past. I'm done with it. I'm not thinking about it. It's over. Or maybe even not that. Sometimes some things, some regrets where we do ourselves wrong, we don't even really tell anybody. We sweep it under the carpet, especially if we know we can get away with it, where we're around a bunch of people that have no accountability whatsoever, and the kind of people that have no boundaries, and they expect you to have no boundaries. Then I can almost guarantee that it will be. That there was going to be regrets. There's going to be places where a person thinks they forgive themselves, but it's not. You know what? I honestly believe at this point, At my ripe old age of 52 years old, as of today, it's my birthday. Yeah, thank you. I honestly believe at this time, at this point in my life, the relationship a person has with oneself is probably the most important relationship they will have throughout their entire lifetime, because the better they can be the better they can be with themselves, the more they can look themselves in the eye in the mirror and say, "You're awesome. I freaking love you. I knew you'd make that up to me." See, because all of us, we have this past version of ourselves that gets left behind. It gets trapped in a little cage somewhere. It wasn't never reconciled. It could be the inner child of us. It could have been our inner teenager, or in our 20s or 30s or whatever. Just depending on how old you are. And to self-reconcile means to find out some places where you did yourself wrong, or you let yourself down. And I mean, really did yourself wrong and really let yourself down, and be honest, truly, truly honest, and soul search about what that might be. And then make it up to yourself. Somehow, some way. Even if it's just in the smallest way, in the smallest amount, make it up to yourself. And then you'll find out, you'll see that there's a you living inside of you that's still stuck in the past. Like, say something happened in your childhood or your early teenage days and it got swept under the carpet, and let's say you hated yourself for it because maybe you didn't make a certain move you should have made. Maybe you didn't stand up for yourself when you should have stood up for yourself. You got swept under the carpet. You never made it right. Something like that. Anything like that. It could be anything where you should have done something but did nothing. And deep down, you know you should have took courage and did something but didn't. That's what I'm talking about. And you find when you finally do take courage and go to a scenario of equal equivalence, or to that place or whatever it may be, and then do what you should have done, and do what you should have done. And then immediately you'll see, it'll go a day or two or three. It's almost like there's a part of you that's been missing all this time, and that was part of you. And it's like that part of you was trapped back in time, and that part of you would be like, "Oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. I knew you'd come back for me. I knew you wouldn't leave me there. Thank you. I fucking love you, man." That's what it'll do, because it is you. It is you needing to be with you so you can be whole, so you can find some wholesomeness, so you can live in some integrity and some honor. And what I'm talking about is just things in the simplest of ways. This can happen where it seems like it's not that important. You think, man, that was years ago. It's like, dude, you're talking 30 years ago. You're talking 35 years ago. You're talking 40 years ago. None of that matters now. If it wasn't reconciled, it matters. It matters. You know, in life, every one of us is going to be ran through the fire at some time. We're going to get caught up in some animosity. We're going to be caught up in some bad relationships. We're going to be caught up in some hate. We're going to be caught up in some revenge. We're going to be caught up in some betrayal. And those kind of things, yeah, we don't have to reconcile with that person or people, but we got to figure out how to forgive them. And that forgiveness, if it's done properly, is self-forgiveness. Because most of that, from what I see right now, and yes, I am well versed in hate. Trust me, I am. That type of psychosis, and I call it a psychosis because it's psychotic. The natural part of the brain where we naturally get mad at things, upset about things, that's supposed to be there. That's our natural instincts telling us, hey, something's wrong, some boundaries were crossed, something's wrong, something's off, something's not right. You're in danger. And it's absolutely right. But to keep using that anger mode without getting the proper healing, putting it in proper context, and making some sense of it, even if it was senseless, trying to make peace with the unpeaceable, trying to make sense of the senseless, seemingly senseless, trying to forgive the unforgivable. That right there, that's what I'm talking about. That is where the self-reconciliation is of extreme importance. And you know, a person, they may not turn to alcohol, they may not turn to drugs, they may not turn to excessive alcohol, workaholic mentality or anything else to cover it up. But you know what? That stuff's still going to be dinging around in the back of their head. That part of them, as time goes on, it just separates further and further and further. And that part of them is like screaming, hey, don't leave me back here, don't leave me back here. And you go further and further and further. It's like, don't leave me. And then further you get further out, and then it's like you're not hearing yourself anymore. And then that part of you gets left behind because it's not reconciled. No single human being on the face of God's green earth can feel wholly themselves. None of us. Not one of us. And you know, I think at this point, it's like we got so many things that are good and right and proper with our technology and our entertainment and everything to make life easier. These things, they're all good and they're definitely blessings and they're definitely great parts of human evolution. However, with so many of us growing up through an age where you know, I don't even know how to articulate that, so I'm just going to kind of leave that on the back burner right now. But I will say, there's so many of us that's grown up through the generation, the suck it up and be a man generation, be tough generation. Well, that is right and proper in certain contexts. But to add a little bit of alcohol, a little bit of drugs, a little bit of unforgiveness, a little bit of lack of self-reconciliation, next thing you know, think you're strong, think you're dealing with life, think you're processing and handling life good, and just patting yourself on the back for being so strong. When in reality, it's numb, shut down. And a person might say, that's bullcrap. How are you going to be numb and shut down? You're alive, walking around, you're on the top of your game, you're working 80 hours a week. All the other addicts and alcoholics are all going downhill. You're staying king of the hill because you're the one hustling and slinging. You're their boss. It's going to crash pretty soon. Or at least that's what I've seen over and over and over and over and over. But anyways, that's getting kind of preachy. I'm not going to go into that. I want to stick to the main thing, and the main thing is integrity. Integrity. It is our responsibility as a human being to find, cultivate, and maintain our integrity. So when the moment comes upon us, we can do the right thing at the right time for the right reasons. So the CTA today is there any places in my life where I did myself wrong, where I let myself down and I never made it up to me? It got swept under the carpet, and part of me got left in the past, and it's back there just waiting and dying for me to go back and get me. So I can just be so happy and be like, man, I knew you'd come back for me. I knew you didn't forget me. Have a good one. See you in the funny papers.